Okay, this Durga Pooja and this Rakhi Bandh, you were saying that Rabindranath Tagore was appropriating the local cultural festivals of the farmers and making into a big level. But I think this is one of the critique also which Dalit movements also keep, that every mainstream Hindu festivals and gods, what they do is they appropriate Dalit, like Buddha. They appropriate Buddha and gave a, like he's a second, sixth or eighth way of coming from Shiva. So that
he's an avatar. Buddha is
avatar.
Not one of the nine avatars.
They made it as an avatar. And like that, every majority of the gods which Dalits pray is not a white skin in the south actually. They're not that god, like Vinayaga, Muruga and all, Ayyappa. So that, what is the thing is it the same way that the religious people like Rabindranath Tagore, religious people, the so-called people also, were trying to appropriate this culture into the mainstream level to attract the masses? In a sense, either one way we can say there is a intention of making it a larger level, but there is another hidden intention after these many years when we look, that there is a one kind of a idea which crop ups within these all festivals is the Hindu vote bank, consolidating the Hindu vote bank. So that, do you find that?
Not in Tagore, I'll come back to that, but just an aside, say for example, when you are saying the incorporation of Dalit gods, or let us say non-Arya gods, right, and non-upper caste gods. I mean, if you look at it, for example, Shiva, right, himself, I mean, nothing in his body language, in his dress, right, in his behavior, right, he has bhang, he smokes grass, he wears animal skins, right, he frolics around with various wives, he doesn't follow anything, right, he has the most unconventional family, he does the most unconventional things, right, he's really dangerous, you never know how to deal with him, right. So Shiva is the original, I mean, if you want to use Dalit word, but you know, religious icon to have been appropriated. Krishna himself, I mean, the whole thing that he's a cowherd who lives on the banks of a river, born in a jail. Now you might, you know, make up these stories into nice things about how, you know, he was taken by his mama and, you know, God fed these things and he was, but the fact of the matter remains, you know, he's a child who's born in the jail, who has this tumultuous life, who's brought up by foster parents, who doesn't know whose parents, I mean, you know, things of that sort. He's a cowherd, he's a pastoralist, right, basically. So, they are all appropriated. There are a range of other gods. Now, if you look at it, for example, today, Shiva and Krishna are among the big pastoral gods. Hanuman, for example. In fact, like my father once was telling me that in Jharkhand, Hanuman is called the land grabbing god by a lot of the tribals, because what the avatars do, especially organized by the RSS and others, is that supposedly they'll go and place little Hanuman images around places they want to grab the land and say this is, you know, some temple or the image has come out. So Hanuman is used to grab land from tribals by that. At least this was happening in the 80s and 90s. So, but look at Hanuman. Hanuman is still considered is the monkey, right? He's not in the shape of any genteel person, right? So that has always been there. That will happen, and it happens, right? And that's a completely different thing. But in this, that is not what is happening. See, one, whether it is a Durga Pooja or Ganesh Chaturthi or the various other festivals, Janmashtami, which has now become a public thing, Shivratri, which has become a public thing. This is not what is happening. This is a very different thing. This is a thing of, you know, building a national community, which is defined along religious lines. But what Tagore was doing was actually not doing anything religious. In fact, he was interesting because he was a believer. I mean, from what I can make out till the end, he was not somebody who was an agnostic or forget about being atheist. He was a believer. But what he was doing was, he was saying that, you know, the festivals that you need to do are non-religious festivals. So, taken from the agricultural calendar, taken from the Bengali the New Year also is an agricultural, you know, the calendar itself was an agricultural calendar, right? So, the New Year, the various cycles of that. So that is what he was saying. So in that sense, I don't think what Tagore was doing was really trying to build a Hindu public or a Hindu community. He wasn't a political figure, so in that sense he wasn't successful at all. So in Shantiniketan there is this tradition, and people still go and take part in those festivals and sing and dance and come. But it doesn't really have a political effect outside that. It's been museum-fied, right? So it becomes this curio little thing which everyone goes, and it's used as an instance of how progressive Tagore was and Bengalis are. But it's not necessarily part of popular culture in Bengal. What has become part of popular culture is the Durga Pooja and other Sarvajanik Pujas like that. So now you have a whole range of things. So you have Kali Puja, which is Diwali, which is also done in the same way. Then you have Saraswati Puja and various other things.
This Durga Puja actually, many of my Bengali friends say that Durga Puja is a secular festival, and it's like Onam, they say, Onam also. But one thing what I fail to understand is, in Durga Puja, how can a Hindu god kill so many people and praise as a Durga can be considered as that is a Hindu tradition. That's what I'm trying to say. How can that be a secular? And why is that always secular? Even in Kerala, this Onam festival, a Hindu festival, becoming a secular, or this Diwali and all. How is this possible? And do you think it is a really secular festival? One, because there is a couple of my friends, others also were saying that during this Durga Puja, they make mosques, like paper mosques, and they keep Durga into that. And these are all very important factors when we look into the history of this Ayodhya, Babri Masjid demolitions and all. So that how do you see this? And it is also left background state, which is atheist, so-called atheists. So that how do you see this? And do you think it's really secular?
See, I don't think it's secular at all, right? And that is a big problem. See, I mean, I spoke about how it emerged in the 19th century, where it had a democratic potential. There was something. It was also regressive in certain ways. And today we need to recognize that. But in today's context, for example, if you look at the past few decades and how it is happening. See, for example, it's not that I go every year. I mean, I've not been there for many years. But I have, earlier when I was growing up, I used to go there very often, and I lived there for many years. And I've seen that, attended many Durga Pujas. I have never seen Durga being kept in a mosque. Even if it is so, the point is, it's not the Muslims who are doing it, right? It's the Hindus who are doing it. And if you have a public festival where 25% of your population in West Bengal today, forget about Bangladesh, right? Your West Bengal's population, which is, after partition, after transfer of populations, after the fact that so many Hindus were pushed from what is today, earlier East Pakistan, today Bangladesh, into today West Bengal, and things of that sort. Despite that, 25%, 1 in 4 Bengalis is not a Hindu, is a Muslim, right? Even today, right? Given this fact, how can you have a festival which is only for Hindus to be the public festival, the public face of Bengali culture? That's completely illegitimate in my view. Sure, I mean, if the Hindus like it and want to participate in it, there is possible for them to do it as a thing. But that still leaves open space for people to critique it, right? But definitely it cannot be a public festival of Bengalis. Secondly, I think what happens in that is, if you see the structure of the way this thing is done over 4 days, it's over actually 9 or 10 days, right? The day the idol is immersed is the 10th day, Russian. So the way it happens is that the 4 main days of the puja, right? In the morning the puja is done, and there's the Anjali, where you go and pray, and then you are given the prasad, and then there is the afternoon bhog, which is from the goddess, and then there are evening cultural festivals. Now those cultural festivals, from what I have seen, is rarely those cultural festivals. Even during the day, there are, you have painting festivals and poetry recitation and various other things, cultural and academic, intellectual, and sports and various other things. None of those are religious, right? And that is not particularly so as far as Durga Pooja is concerned. So even in Maharashtra with Ganesh Chaturthi, when the pandals they are kept, they have all these festivals, people are all these competitions and singing competition, dancing competition, the painting competition, and all those things happen. And there will always be people who will say, you get others, let the Muslim and the Christians come. But they are tiptoeing in a cultural space which is clearly defined aggressively in symbols, right? If not aggressively in social atmosphere, is defined clearly as Hindu, right? So during the Durga Puja there is no namaz organized, right? Or there is no Christian mass organized. So it's not that. Even if it was done, there would be a possibility of saying that it's not really secular. What you are doing is you're just getting different religions, denominations to sit together and do things. But what is secular is then still left open. So that problem remains. And the big problem that has been there in Bengal has been that Tagore has, like I was saying, these things, these festivals have been museumified. Shantiniketan itself has been made into a museum, in a sense. Tagore's ideas have been sort of defanged. So he is the icon of Bengal, but his ideas have the least, purchase in Bengal. Nobody really follows anything he said. If you look at what Tagore said, he was one of the strongest critiques of nationalism. He was the strongest critiques of public expressions of religiosity. Right? And today, if you see, that's exactly the opposite. So it's like, you put up this, it's like the Roman Catholic Church has Jesus Christ, who was basically a working class figure, as its icon. So you defang the whole thing and you make it into something completely different and museumify it. And in Bengal now, what has happened is that I'm not somebody who's done any research on this, but I have a suspicion that perhaps this thing has become big. This Durga Puja has become really big in the post-independence period, with the partition, with the coming of Hindu refugees from East Pakistan at that time. This was a way of asserting their identity and position.